Hi, you are tuned into AWANI Review with me, Cynthia Ng. Today, we will be exploring Malaysia's move towards a cashless society and digital economy. Now, a key player driving this shift is PayNet, the company behind Malaysia's national payments network. Now, you may know that, you may not know them as a company, but they operate like major retail payment systems like Maps, JomPay, Do It Now, FPX, just to name a few. So I'm really excited to have the group CEO, Farhan Ahmad, with me here today in the studio. Great to have you on the show, Farhan, and thank you so much for coming to AWANI.
Thank you for having me.
Now, as I mentioned, for those of us who might not be familiar with PayNet, but I can guarantee that all of us use PayNet every day. But maybe you can start by explaining what is PayNet about and how does it touch the lives of everyday Malaysians?
Sure, no, I'm happy to share that. So, many years ago, about 10 years ago, Bank Negara Malaysia had a vision to combine existing payment companies in Malaysia into one shared infrastructure that can be used by any financial services company in Malaysia to accelerate the digitization of the country. That is, the result of that was in 2017 we built PayNet. And PayNet is a national payments network with the mission to empower the nation's digital economy. Since that time, I'm proud to say we have become a network that others emulate, that other parties, other countries would love to have in theirs because of the impact that something like PayNet can have for the country and its citizens. So like you said, most people may not know our products, but you use our products, whether it's Do It Now transfer, whether it's our QRs, whether it's My Debit, the debit card, FPX, JomPay, many of those products and services are actually all run by PayNet. 80% of Malaysians today use our products on a daily basis. And just in the last 3 or 4 years with QR, we have tripled the number of merchants that can accept digital payments, which really opens up for a large number of consumers and merchants to accept this payment thing. There's three main purposes that when I think of PayNet, what do we really do? We serve three purposes. The first purpose is that we make sure that we provide a secure, efficient, and reliable payment system to all the citizenry of the country. Mm-hmm. Whenever they want to pay, they have the easiest way to do it at the cheapest cost, and they can trust it and rely on it. Secondly, we make sure that any benefits of digitization are not confined to just a select few, but everything that we build has inclusion in its core, which means that every Malaysian, no matter where you are, should be able to benefit from that. And the third mission that we see and the purpose that we see is really, as the world is now innovating at breathtaking pace, how do we make sure that Malaysians have access to the best services and products around the world? So innovation is a key part of PayNet's journey and mission. And I think those are the three big purposes I find that PayNet has. And people don't quite realize and understand how engaged PayNet is in the country or as a payment company. But PayNet, by virtue of all the products we provide, are now one of the largest payment companies in the whole world. In fact, we process in transaction value more than 3 times the GDP of Malaysia every year, which is something quite unprecedented in our world of payments. So Malaysians should be very proud to co-own, as a country, a payments network that can do this at scale, and it should be a national pride.
How Malaysia has changed so much in the past couple of years, how we're moving towards a cashless society. In fact, I can't really recall when was the last time I used cash, if I were to be honest with you. So I think just reflecting on the past few years, of course, COVID was one of the reasons that pushed people
Correct.
to digitalize and start using all the services that you mentioned. In your opinion, what do you think are some of the most influential trends that has been driving such robust growth in digital payment in Malaysia?
Malaysia, just I think in the last decade, has rapidly grown its infrastructure where you have 90% penetration of internet in the country. You have 135% penetration of mobile phones, which means more than 1 per person. That's pretty amazing. Now, as their lives are moving more from an analog world to a digital world, the payments had to go through. So yes, COVID was a key enabler because in COVID you had no other option.
Right.
There was no plan B. But because of that, people had to try something out and they realized, wow, this is pretty good. I don't have to give this up. I don't have to get out of bed, go all the way to a bank branch to do a simple transaction. or I can pay somebody when they WhatsApp me their account number, and I can pay that money to them. I don't have to meet them in a restaurant, give them money in hand. And all these conveniences, once you start taking them for granted, it becomes common. And then you share that with your friends and your family, and then everybody takes over. So yes, certainly the COVID was an accelerator, but the journey of digitization started well below that, before that, by many agencies of the government. And that has kind of taken up, and now we are here where we are, with a very, very robust digital economy in the country.
As we move forward, what's next in this phase of this cashless journey, and what benefits might it bring next?
So maybe I'll take a second to talk about what benefits we're already enjoying because of digitization. And that's obviously digitization of money, but also in general, moving from an analog life to a digital life. Certainly market expansion and job growth, right? Things, when we have a growth in an economy the way we're seeing a growth in economy, new jobs get created. A digital content creator never existed before, but that seems to be a very popular choice for many young people now as a career of choice. Market expansion. If I had an analog marketplace, I could only sell to the people that can come visit my shop. That's a very, very small radius. Suddenly with digital, I can sell to the world. And if you have amazing products, whether it's Sarawak pepper or it's seaweed from the coast of Sabah or it's something very uniquely Malaysian, how do you export that to a very, very broad society? That's through digital. So to me, market expansion, job growth is a big one. Financial inclusion. 88% of Malaysians are banked already, which is already a very, very good stat and a very good place for the country to be in. But that means there's 12% still people who could benefit from that. Because if you're not banked today, you can't get a mortgage, you can't get a car loan. Things are harder for you, right? So digitization allows you to accelerate those things you need. You can buy a car faster. You can open a bank account instantly instead of having to go places. If I store cash in my pillow, the only thing that's going to grow is mold. But if I put that same cash in an account, the cash may grow, and I have savings for my retirement. This is possible with digitization. Efficiency and productivity gains, right? We're no longer faxing things, writing letters, doing all kinds of things. Like you said, you don't remember the last time you had to go to a bank to pay a bill. You don't have to do that anymore. You're much more productive now and efficient. Transparency. I now know where my money is going. I now know my budgeting. I can budget better. I can know if something bad's happening. I can control my life a little bit. And then finally, I would say just the cost of analog was very heavy. Whether it's paper-based information or whether it's paper-based money. You know, people think cash is free, but cash is not free. At the end of the day, somebody has to come pick up a cash from a store, take it to a place, clean it up, recycle it, go to a bank, put it in the bank has to take it, put it in an ATM. Cash is very expensive. Cash gets lost. And if you think cash is about, I think the cost of cash is about 5% to 10%, depending on which estimate you look at. That is that much value leaving the economy and being wasted. Imagine if you could put that value back in. You could double your GDP growth. So digitization already is very important. And then I'm happy to talk about what other things we can be doing to further accelerate that.
No, I was just thinking that sometimes when I travel abroad and they lack the infrastructure that we have here, for instance, the ease of using QR Pay and all that, and I realized just how far advanced Malaysia is. Even though we are still a somewhat developing country compared to other countries which are far more developed in their economies, but not so much in digital payments. So I'm just really curious, your thoughts about where would Malaysia be next, given that we have the infrastructure in place, we have a mature economy in the sense, digital economy in the sense people are very willing to use it and willing to try it now. So what's next? How do you foresee the future of cashless Malaysia?
Sure. So I think we should maybe take a moment and be very proud of where we are actually. Malaysia is ranked 31st out of 132 countries in our Global Innovation Index. I think that's what they call it, Global Innovation Index. That means we are considered one of the best, most innovative countries. So I think actually Malaysia is outpunching its weight quite a lot in the global marketplace. We don't always recognize that. Our e-commerce market alone is expected to be over 100 billion ringgit in 2025. It's quite sizable. Malaysians also, for e-commerce, prefer to use their domestic scheme more, like PayNet more, than they prefer using global cards, Visa, MasterCard. I think in many ways, like I said, PayNet's job is to make sure that we are the most efficient, the most cost-effective and reliable payment option. And I think Malaysians would like to use the most cost-effective payment choice. And they do that, and they vote with that, they pay with that, because we are the cheapest option to pay, the most ubiquitous way to pay. Everywhere you go, you'll see FPX or Do It Now to pay. So I think that drives that choice. And it's pretty seamless, right? If I'm using FPX, I don't need to go search for my card and type in information. I can just click through the bank account information and make a quick payment online, and it's pretty simple. So I think that ease of use is translated into them preferring a domestic scheme, but they're really preferring the better scheme that they think is better. So what's next, right? Look, I think we can all agree that for this trend to continue and for this digitization to continue, we have to make sure that more and more Malaysians feel confident and secure with digital payments and digitization in general. And that's a big part of what PayNet is doing.
Yep.
We have an initiative called PayNet Secure, which is a bunch of different products and services that we've built to try and protect the people from bad players. The National Fraud Portal, which we launched along with all the banks, as well as with the support and guidance of Bank Negara. The National Fraud Portal is a way for us to identify and help prevent fraud in the country. And I'm not at liberty to share the exact numbers, but a very substantial amount of fraud that was happening is now being curtailed and stopped before the money leaves, which is really beneficial for people. We have the National Scam Response Center that just launched as well last year. And that's another way we help get ahead of the bad guys when something bad happens. But actually, PayNet is investing in a lot of AI-based solutions to look in the future and say, how do we predict where bad things are going to happen? How do we get ahead of the bad guys as scams are getting more and more clever and harder to discern? We are also putting our effort to say, how do we make better detection capabilities so that we can be ahead of them? So security and trust is maybe number one on our list of where we want to innovate and build on, because I think the people want that and expect that from us. And we take that role very seriously.
Could you elaborate a bit more about what's PayNet doing to, as you say, get ahead of the bad guys? Because we talk about sophistication in frauds and scams. You have deep fake videos, deep fake calls coming through almost on a daily basis, and it's hard, to distinguish sometimes, especially with all the AI and all the deep fakes that's happening. So what's PayNet doing in that sense?
Yeah, I think in some of these things you start from. There are many different parts of the problem. Let's just say the first part of the problem is when you discover something bad has happened to you. Hey, money left my account, I did not do it, whether it's through a deep fake or something else. Or you even did it yourself, but you realize that was a mistake. When you look at investment scams, or very common scam is the love scam, where you're deliberately sending people money. At some point you realize maybe I shouldn't be doing this. At that point, if you call into the National Scam Response Center or your bank, we will initiate a trace and detect, and we can effectively try to stop that money from leaving the system, so to help you get it back. The next step of that is, can we look at where unusual activity is happening? And can we use generative AI and neural network models to see as that activity develops in a cluster that something bad is about to happen? And in which case we can put some flags up and say, can we be extra careful with this?
Okay.
We can give guidance to say, if you're making an unusual purchase of some sort, maybe we give you a little bit of guidance. Are you sure this is okay? Can you validate with some other security vehicle? And so these are the kind of initiatives. I mean, there's a lot of technical things we're doing behind this, but the idea is to say, go from all the way from once it's reported, how do we prevent the money from leaving, all the way to predicting ahead of time that something bad is happening in a certain area, and we have to be very vigilant now. And how do we tell all the parties, whether it's telcos or banks, that something may be happening, please look out for unusual activity.
You can put as much guardrails as you can, but then ultimately it's also down to the consumers and having education and awareness as well. I do wonder, you talked a bit about earlier about the underserved people, the 10% or the 12% that still, we still are unable to reach, people who are not as familiar with digital banking or not familiar with digital security and things like that. How are you working with, your stakeholders and your partners, like Bank Negara and the other banks to really try to bring them into the fold as well?
We work with all of our partners, whether it's Bank Negara and their eDo It initiative, whether it's the banks where we do independent campaigns with them, whether it's the universities and schools where we do both awareness and usage campaigns regularly to increase that. We always try to pass the messaging around how to be vigilant. We try to build new security features, right? How not to just rely on OTPs. We want to build better in-app security that we can detect anomalies directly. We link things to your biometrics. So we do things regularly to both build on the awareness and the tools available to the people to stop them from getting scammed. The reality is this is not bulletproof, right? And with generative AI, the level and sophistication of deepfakes is at a point that even experts can't tell. It's very, very hard to tell. That is today. A year from now, it'll be indiscernible. And that is going to be hard to combat. The best we can do is we can put some guardrails around limits of what you can move around. And we can be on the lookout for those kind of scams, because at some point they're being created and they're being instilled into the system somewhere. And the further out from the payment we go and we see layers ahead of the payment, see what happened before the payment, we are able to better detect this behavior now. This messaging looks unlikely, right? A scammer is not only messaging one person at a time. They might message 10,000 people to see who bites, right? If we can detect that pattern anomaly and say, this account is kind of dormant, suddenly messages 10,000 people, something must be off, and we flag it, then we have a better chance of stopping it. Now that requires a lot of cooperation between parties, and that's what we're working on generally. The good news is that whether it's Bank Negara or the government or us or the banks, we all deeply care about this. So yes, we will do the awareness, yes, we will do the tools. We want the customer to be very, very vigilant about what they do, and we're going to do our part to make sure that when it passes their vigilance, that we are also doing our best to stop the bad actors.
So looking at Malaysia's future, where do you think are the gaps that we need to address immediately when it comes to digital payments and digital security? And what's looking most exciting to you as you look to the prospects of the growth for Malaysia?
And I think we have taken it upon ourselves to say, how do we educate more and more Malaysians, not just about financial services, but also get more people involved in just money intelligence. How to be smart with money. In addition, we want to say, if we take the same thing back further, we say, how do we actually create a more robust talent pool for financial services in Malaysia that is very tech savvy and looking for the future of the industry? So last year we launched our initiative called PayNet Akar. Akar, as you know, means roots. And the idea is that we want to build a transformative program to say, how do we educate all the way from young children to young adults, both about payments and financial discipline, but also teach them skills that they can apply and become ready for a career in financial services. We just launched something about a month ago with AWS, Amazon, called AWS Restart with PayNet, where we're going to retrain about 100 people with cloud computing skills and cybersecurity skills, because their current skill set would slowly be dying out with new technology. So how do we retrain them for the future? And that's an initiative we're doing. We also launched, we're launching, along with our partners, a digital-only school called SAM. And that's an initiative to try out how a fully digital teaching module would work. It is not just, SAM is not just about taking an analog course and putting it online. That doesn't work, right? Because online you have to engage people differently. So SAM is a reimagination of how do you teach people when they're not in front of you, when they are distracted, when there's noises going around. And that is a foundation for how do we actually educate people going forward. So it's a grassroots thing there. So that's one. Akar is one. The second thing we talk about is, how do we get awareness around digital payments in general and how to responsibly use them? How do we first show you the benefit, and then we tie the payment advantage to the benefit? And so we launched a program called PayNet Chamba. Chamba now, is the sprouting of that, so the Akar and the Chamba combined together. And Chamba is about building self-sustaining cycles of prosperity, economic prosperity in different parts of the country. So we've done something in Langkawi, we're doing a project now in Johor. And the idea is that we find willing parties that can benefit from digitization in the community. And we provide them the digital education, that security education, the education of about how to use digital to expand your prosperity, make the business bigger. How do you hire more people then to help you with that business? How does the public-private partnership in that community works to continue the cycle going? And Langkawi is a great example, where we kickstart something, we teach them the skills used to thrive in a digital world, we give them the payment vehicles, and the community takes over. Because what that happens is the community teaches each other how to be safer, how to be better. They look out for each other in the digital realm as well. And that to me will be a powerful way to kind of protect the future for the next generation. So Chamba I'm super excited about. PayNet Connect is super exciting. And that is our collaboration with Bank Negara and all the banks to build the open data, open finance, open banking ecosystem for Malaysia. Imagine today you have to apply for a loan or mortgage, and you get asked for 3 months of statements, and this statement, and that statement, and this proof, and you put together all this reams of paper. You may scan it and email it, but then at some point you have to hand deliver this to a branch. It lies on someone's desk, and who knows who sees it, but it's your personal information. Worse still, you may be giving it to a writer to take you to the bank. This is all unsafe. This is where scammers get their information. So PayNet Connect and open data is a way to share information between recipients of this information in a safe and secure way. So you can't get hacked. You can't get stolen in the middle of that. It's a very protected way of sharing information versus today. Similarly, our things that we're working around are our online checkout product, which we're going to launch called Do It Now Pay. It's going to launch soon. We're going to stop the need for you to type in your account information online every single time, because that's where the risk and the fraud comes in. So we will eliminate that need. We will tokenize and encrypt everything that we have, so you don't have to risk putting all that information and send it on, whether you're in a cafe and the Wi-Fi or the cafe can sniff it. All that stuff will be gone, so we will make that protected. So that's really exciting for us. And I'll talk about two more things maybe. One is international. You mentioned you go to other countries and you see how difficult and how better our system might be. But the corollary of that is tourists coming to Malaysia, right? How do they pay? And this year we've had a record number of tourists, and tourism is now a very growing part of the economy. So now we have cross-border linkages with 5 countries, with many more to come. Where now people, for example, from China can come here, which is the largest tourist group in Malaysia. And because of the linkages we've built, they can use their Alipay app or UnionPay app from China and use any of our QRs. Now imagine that was not available just a year ago. So if I was visiting from China and I could use my card maybe at Aeon. But if I was in a kampong and I saw a vendor selling some nasi lemak on the roadside, I could not buy unless I had cash. Probably exact change, right? I can't give a 50. They won't have change. But now they can use that QR for that vendor. And we've opened up a market of tourism that was only limited to the big players, to the small players, to the micro SME, the mom and pops, the pasar malams, right? They can now welcome these tourists in. So I'm super excited about what that can do to revive that segment of society and to increase tourism in a safe way without having to carry cash. And the last thing I'm super excited about is the development of generative AI. Because our philosophy is Gen AI will change every single facet of society and everything that we do in the next 5 to 6 years. And how do we prepare Malaysia for that future? So whether it's cybersecurity, whether it's data privacy, whether it's financial inclusion, Gen AI has a role to play in all of that. And so we spend a lot of our time working with the leading researchers from around the world to bring the best intelligence and the best research available in the world to Malaysia. And that, I think, will really pay dividends in the future. It was a mouthful, but I wanted to share some of the key things that
no,
are
that's
keeping me
great.
excited.
I think I appreciate you sharing and giving us a glimpse of what's to come with what PayNet is doing, because often we are very focused about the problems at hand, and it's great to hear from you about what's to come and some of the exciting programs or projects that is on its way. We just have two final minutes. Maybe I just want to turn to a more personal insight, because I know you've had unique experiences founding startups, and then you've worked across multiple large banks and digital payments solution provider. I do wonder, coming from that diverse background and then coming into a national network payment provider, how has your approach changed, or what are some of the things that you have brought from your background as an entrepreneur to run a national network like PayNet in Malaysia?
Sure. So I think, like you mentioned, my background has been, I have started a few companies, startups, fintech startups. I've worked for large banks in US and Europe and in that area. But actually I've never worked in Asia before. So this is new for me as well, from just not just the nature of the company, but the style of working and the way the system runs is quite different. My first observation is that Asia is very dynamic. It's one of the most exciting places for growth right now. There's more innovation happening here, and more excitement and more optimism for the future than I've seen anywhere else. So I think that's super exciting for someone like me to come in and see that. Then I see something like a PayNet, and there are, like I said, not very many companies like PayNet. We are one of the largest payment companies in the world. And for a large payment company that is not solely motivated by commercial outcomes, but motivated by prosperity for the country, is an amazing opportunity, right? Of course it runs differently, and of course those styles are different, and we have to, sometimes PayNeters can benefit from my experience as an entrepreneur. More times I can benefit from how PayNet has been built over time. And we find that happy medium of bringing the best that I've learned to the best that Malaysia already has. And hopefully that creates a better outcome that is more locally suited. So I think what I maybe want to leave that is, as coming from the outside, I think PayNet is a unique treasure for the country. I, without bias, can say that, but I did not build PayNet. Without bias, I can say that PayNet is one of the best placed payment companies in the world. And the way it has been designed to service the country is pretty amazing. For me, as an entrepreneur, this gives the platform to apply technology and my know-how to help shape people's lives for a better future for everybody. And I think for an entrepreneur and somebody at my stage of my career, there is no better promise and there's no better outcome that I could hope for. So I'm super excited to be here.
Well, we are very excited to have you here as well in the studio, and of course leading PayNet. Thank you so much, Farhan, for spending some time to talk to us about what PayNet is doing and also a bit of your personal insights. It's been an honor, and hope to have you back on our show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.